there. In this video I'm going to show you how you can use the tissue add-on to tessellate a plane onto a prism. So if we go to Blender with FluidDesigner installed, you must have the tissue add-on installed. In our groups folder, if you go to the group library and look for tessellation with tissue add-on, a number of different prisms, so there's a cube for example and a triangular prism. I'm going to use this hexagonal prism, so select it and then click OK, scroll back and just click outside the box. That centers our prism in the middle of the screen. Now the default size of this, if we just open up the properties panel, it's 2 centimeters, in other words 20 millimeters square. It's hexagonal, so there are 6 sides to this, and we're going to tessellate this plane over here onto this surface. Now before we do that, I'm going to just scroll back. I'm going to move that ring up a little bit, and what we could do with this object is just scale it a bit bigger. So I'm going to do S on the keyboard, scale it just in the Z, and I'm going to type 1.5 and then enter and just do Control A and apply the scale. All I've done there is just change it to 30 millimeters tall, that's all. So you could change it to any sort of height. Now if I press the tab key to go into edit mode, I'm also going to move this point at the bottom up, make it more flat, and if I do Control and plus on my keyboard with that center point selected, and then do X and dissolve the vertices, dissolve the faces, what I've done is I've just moved from there being 6 faces on the bottom to 1 face. You don't have to do that, but it just gives us a different effect. And it is probably necessary if you're going to put a hole in the bottom of this to make it lighter. So what I want to do now is selecting the plane here. If I press the tab key to go into edit mode, you can see what it's made up of. And now I've orientated it like this because this plane will tessellate onto the 2 planes in front in the sort of pattern that we've got. Now what I'm going to do is if I press C on the keyboard and if I just highlight those vertices in the corner and highlight those vertices in the corner and press the escape key and X and to delete those vertices, that's basically going to be my pattern that I'm going to tessellate. You can pretty easily see what it should look like. So come out of edit mode. Now with the cross highlighted, if I hold down the shift key and highlight the hexagonal prism, and then over in my left panel if I click on create and open up the tissue add-on and tessellate, it's very important if you're 3D printing to tick merge. You don't want duplicate vertices, and then just click OK. And you can see the pattern that we've created there on the screen. So if I just press the tab key, you can see it much better, and so you can see what the general pattern's going to be, and it's basically just that cross pattern. Now what's important to note is that it does usually make some sort of mistakes here down at the bottom, so we want to delete that bit at the bottom. So if we just come out of edit mode and just click on the original hexagonal prism and click outline and go to objects and just switch off the view for that. So I've just switched off the view for that, and then select our tessellated pattern. I want to go in, and you do need to be careful here. Don't do this upside down, do it this way round. Just take a little bit of time. I'm going to go in here and press the tab key, press A on the keyboard, and I'm just going to delete. I'll just switch back to vertices mode. I'm just going to delete all of these extra points that it's created because I don't want anything along the bottom here. So I'm just highlighting all those points and X on the keyboard to delete, and just rotating round just to see that I've got everything deleted. I haven't quite. There's still a little bit there, and X and delete those vertices. So I don't want anything at the bottom. So if I come out of edit mode now and switch the original one in view, you can see I've got no pattern on the bottom now. Alright, so that's all I've done. I've just deleted the pattern from the bottom because it just messes it up a little bit. And if I open up the properties panel and go to modifiers, and I want to add a solidify modifier, and I find that 1mm thickness is perfectly okay, and tick high quality and even thickness. Now if you set the offset to 0, that will basically stick out by 0.5 millimeter. So as you increase the offset, it'll stick out more. I think something like about 0.5 mil there should be perfectly adequate. And then if you just bring the ring back down at the top until it's overlapping, if I just go to view and front view, and just switch off my snap, that will position the ring there. Now you could put a hollow in the bottom there as well. I tend to use Mesh Mixer if I want to hollow this out. I find it works better. And I'll just delete that plane on the right hand side. So there's basically my finished tessellated object. If I just go to File and Export and go to Wavefront Object and Desktop, I'll just say Tessellation as the object, and so you just export the OBJ file and just go to Netfab, go to Project and Open. So I'm going to open Tessellation, and you must always run everything through Netfab. And you can see I've got no problems in this one, so I just do automatic repair and execute, apply the repair and remove the old part, and export it as a wavefront object. And that will be now ready to be 3D printed. Now I should warn you here, depending upon the complexity of your tessellation, you could easily end up with problems. So here's one I did a little bit earlier. Now you can see this is a little bit more complicated, and you can see all those red bits there. Those are inverted faces. So when I actually ran the repair procedure here, I got some values in invalid orientation, and surfaces went red like this. Don't attempt to print an object if you get any values above 0 for invalid orientation, or you get any red areas like this. You will need to sort of do it again. Now the way that I developed that pattern was to use the fan. So if I go back to Blender-FluidDesigner, if I just do Ctrl-Z a few times and go back to my original, so if I just delete that now. So what I did to get that complicated one, highlighted the cross, hold down the shift key and highlighted the hexagonal prism, and when I did create and tessellate, I actually did fan instead of quad. And when I did that, you get a much more complicated model, as you can see there, and you do need to be very wary of things like that. They look beautiful, but you can end up with real difficulties in running it through Netfab. Okay, so you do need to be careful. Try keeping these patterns relatively simple, and I wouldn't recommend using fan. You can play around with it, but I wouldn't really recommend it. Use quad instead. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thank you.